Good evening, you are watching ReNEWS in English. I am Sona Tumanyan. Nikol Pashinyan spoke about joining the Shanghai Cooperation Organization at his last press conference in July. Armenia currently has partner status, and today it became clear that Armenian Prime Minister Nikol Pashinyan and Azerbaijani President Ilham Aliyev have been invited to the Shanghai Cooperation Organization summit. The leaders of more than 20 countries and 10 international organizations will participate in the summit and its related events in the city of Tianjin in northern China. The summit will be held from August 31 to September 1. The meeting of the Council of Heads of Member States will be chaired by Chinese leader Jinping. The Chinese Foreign Ministry has reported that President Xi Jinping will invite the summit participants to an official dinner and will also hold bilateral meetings with Iran. And now to Armenia. There are changes in official posts in Armenia's domestic political life. Yesterday, Nikol Pashinyan announced that Arsen Torosyan, a member of parliament from the Civil Contract Party, will be appointed Minister of Labor and Social Affairs, while Aren Mkrtchyan from the same National Assembly faction will be appointed Governor of Lori Province. Arsen Torosyan has already resigned his parliamentary seat, and Mkrtchyan has made a Facebook post about the new position. But now, through a report, let's present the other important messages from Armenian Prime Minister Nikol Pashinyan's press briefing that followed the government session.
I want to congratulate you all.
Nikol Pashinyan began the government session by congratulating his subordinates on the occasion of the established peace.
Before leaving for Washington, we had consultations, we had discussions.
And after returning from Washington, peacemaker Trump has managed to forget between whom he established peace. Will he remember which country's leader is calling when Pashinyan calls in case of a problem, as they had previously agreed upon as a guarantee?
Azerbaijan, that was a big one going on for 35 years with Albania.
After the government session, Nikol Pashinyan answered journalists' questions speaking about the provisions agreed upon in Washington.
The Armenia-United States company will not control that road, but will manage the road, meaning it will carry out business management.
But he left unanswered ReOpen Media's follow-up question about whether Aliyev's calls he changed the constitution violate the agreement's provision not to interfere in each other's internal affairs, and what will happen if the people vote against the changes to the main law.
I don't think the people will vote against it if it suddenly turns out that it could have any effect on the peace process.
When asked if this is the beginning of an undeclared campaign for a referendum on constitutional changes, Pashinyan says the processes are unrelated, while Aliyev continues to state that Armenia has not yet done its homework.
Armenia has homework. The territorial claims in Armenia's constitution did not allow for the signing of a peace agreement today.
Speaking about the delimitation work, Pashinyan says we still need to clarify the borders, then corrects himself, although we generally know them.
We have already agreed with Azerbaijan many times that we recognize each other's territorial integrity, sovereignty, and the inviolability of borders based on the 1991 Alma-Ata Declaration. And the Alma-Ata Declaration clearly states that the territory of the Armenian SSR is identical to the territory of the Republic of Armenia, and the territory of the Azerbaijan Republic is identical to the territory of the Azerbaijani SSR. We have all the maps that delineate those territories and borders. Both Azerbaijan has them and we have them.
Pashinyan is likely speaking about the point on the inviolability of existing borders by referencing the Alma-Ata Declaration. But do those borders exist on paper or on the ground? Ambassador Extraordinary and Plenipotentiary Zeunik Ayejanyan says that when Azerbaijan signed the Alma-Ata Declaration, it was already without Artsakh.
The Alma-Ata Declaration refers to the existing borders, meaning the borders in effect at the moment of your signing. And at the moment of our signing, neither Artsakh nor parts of Tamush were within those existing borders. And even more so at the moment of Azerbaijan's signing. Neither Kelbajar nor the other regions were in it. It doesn't say administrative borders. It says existing borders.
The authorities consider both the agreement and the declaration a victory and a new page, calling them an important step. But why aren't all the points in one document? An agreement and a declaration are different in nature. A declaration does not require internal approval. An agreement must be approved by several state bodies.
What is this peace about if there is nothing in it about the main topic of the fight, the war, if there is nothing related to Artsakh? What was the problem between the Republic of Armenia and Azerbaijan?
Artsakh is absent from both the declaration and the agreement signed in Washington. Pashinyan says that although he has participated in the Karabakh movement since the 7th grade, he now considers the Artsakh page closed because it is incompatible with peace. The leader of the team that promised the deoccupation of Hadrut and Shushi before the 2021 elections only understood this 3 years after the elections.
Generally, declarations are documents that state goals and principles. However, the declaration we saw signed trilaterally contains provisions that imply this declaration must undergo domestic procedures, but I assume the parties specifically named it a declaration to avoid going through domestic procedures, which would have meant checking the document's constitutionality. And in this regard, we will have problems with the provision that implies the provision of relevant territories from Armenia to Azerbaijan to ensure an uninterrupted connection.
The case of the agreement is different.
This document simply needs to be ratified. The head of the country first has the right to sign a document as the head of the executive branch, but that does not yet mean that the entire nation is represented in that process. Therefore, the representative body is the National Assembly, and any international treaty, if signed, must then be ratified. Of course, there have been cases where a document was signed but never ratified, or cases where years pass between signing and ratification, 10, 15, even 20 years.
This is the price of defeat that we are paying, which is why it is beneficial to Azerbaijan, says lawyer Aragazaryan.
This agreement is not a guarantee, of course, that Azerbaijan will violate it or will fulfill the agreement, but it is at least a document that brings the state into a field of regulation.
This is what the victory of peace looks like in Pashinyan's eyes, with details still undiscussed. And if the people don't like the government's strategy, they should have made a revolution, says the prime minister, considering himself a unique leader for having such an approach. Simon Hovanesyan, Gevorksianosyan, and Ani Hovanesyan, ReOpen Media.
Let's continue with the official news. On August 22, the Secretary of the Security Council of Armenia, Armen Grigoryan, received the U.S. Ambassador Extraordinary and Plenipotentiary to the Republic of Armenia, Christina Quinn. The interlocutors exchanged views and with satisfaction highlighted the agreements reached in Washington in the process of normalizing relations between Armenia and Azerbaijan. Reference was also made to the unblocking of regional communication routes, in the framework of which the Secretary of the Security Council emphasized that the unblocking will take place with full respect for the principles of the country's territorial integrity, sovereignty, jurisdiction, and reciprocity. After Overchuk's visit, a dialogue with the Russian side is taking place at the level of the secretaries of the Security Councils. In a phone conversation with his Russian counterpart, Sergei Shoigu, Security Council Secretary Armen Grigoryan presented the agreements reached in Washington on August 8 regarding the normalization of Armenia-Azerbaijan relations. Grigoryan noted that peace has been established in the region, which is consistent with the interests of all countries and the region, particularly regarding the unblocking of communication routes and the resulting economic opportunities. Shoigu in turn presented the results of the Putin-Trump meeting in Alaska and future developments. The interlocutors also discussed issues related to the Armenia-Russia agenda. By the way, Armenia's foreign minister also had a phone conversation with his Cypriot counterpart Konstantinos Kombas, and they had a discussion about deepening the Armenia-European Union partnership, taking into account Cyprus's presidency of the Council of the European Union in the first half of next year. Mirzoyan and Kombas also touched upon the bilateral agenda. Yesterday, the president of Azerbaijan addressed the normalization of relations with Armenia, noting that the pre-signing of the peace treaty effectively puts an end to the conflict between Azerbaijan and Armenia. Ilham Aliyev stated that the process of normalizing relations between Armenia and Azerbaijan is, one could say, complete, and that the signed documents fully ensure Azerbaijan's interests. He boasted that Baku's position has always served as the basis for developing the provisions of the peace treaty.
Azerbaijan President Ilham Aliyev, with his latest ghostful statements, continues to tout the word victory, this time from occupied Artsakh. In the Karvachar region, where a small number of Azerbaijanis have been relocated, he announced that the process of normalizing Armenian-Azerbaijani relations is almost complete, and the signed documents fully satisfy the interests of the Azerbaijani side.
We have achieved everything we wanted. The hateful Minsk group is already living its last days. In reality, it has not carried out any activity, nor could it. However, it existed legally, and now its end is near.
Aliyev's statement was a reaction to the events of the previous day, which was followed by new accusations aimed at Western countries. Today, Aliyev visited occupied Kovsakan, where OSCE Minsk group co-chairs became the target of his criticism. He also denounced other Western organizations and countries dealing with the region's problems, accusing them of providing free weapons to Armenia.
The value of the weapons provided to the Armenian army from abroad, which we took as military trophies, is approximately $5 to $6 billion. Of course, Armenia did not have the money to buy that many weapons. All these weapons were given to them for free to continue the occupation.
True to his style of blaming everyone and praising only himself, Aliyev declared that they themselves are the authors of the peace treaty with Armenia and that official Baku's position has always served as the basis for the development of the 17 points.
The pre-signing of this document effectively puts an end to the Azerbaijani-Armenian conflict.
These statements shed new light on the peace treaty pre-signed in Washington. Aliyev's statements about the end of the conflict suggest that he sees himself only in the role of the one who dictates terms. What will future developments look like, and will the parties be able to reach an agreement on the terms that Aliyev considers the only correct option? In reality, it is this very approach that could be the biggest threat to regional peace. Diana Karapetyan, ReOpen Media.
But as it turns out, immediately after his enthusiastic statements, Aliyev made new announcements with a different vocabulary and other undertones. He stated that his country must be ready for war at any moment, as global events are developing in a way that makes it impossible to know what will happen tomorrow. According to him, after the second Nagorno-Karabakh war, Azerbaijan has increased the personnel of its special units by the thousands, acquired ultra-modern unmanned aerial vehicles, and also signed contracts to acquire the latest combat aircraft, while its existing fighter jets have been completely modernized. Experts have counted that when speaking about Armenia and Armenians, he used the word enemy 4 times. The day before, a delegation led by Brigadier General Caroline Williams, Deputy Commander of the Kansas National Guard and Commander of the Kansas Army National Guard, visited the Vazgen Sargsyan Military Academy of the Ministry of Defense. The American general and those accompanying him familiarized themselves with the academy structure, educational programs, as well as modern approaches in the field of training. Yesterday, I briefly covered the conclusion of the Eagle Partner 2025 Armenian-American military exercise in Armenia. And today, Narina Ukasyan has addressed the history behind the exercises, a historical overview, and a summary in one report.
The Armenian-American Joint Military Exercise Eagle Partner 2025 lasted for 8 days, a considerable duration for such an event. It took place at the Tsar military base with the participation of the Peacekeeping Brigade of the Armed Forces of Armenia, the U.S. Army Europe and Africa, and service members from the Kansas National Guard. The main objectives of the exercise were to increase the interoperability of units involved in peacekeeping missions, to exchange best practices in command and tactical communication, and to enhance the preparedness of the peacekeeping units of the Armed Forces of the Republic of Armenia. During the exercise, the emphasis was placed on medical evacuation procedures, and American armored vehicles were used, 8 armored ambulances and 2 armored combat vehicles, which were transported to Armenia from the Dolman military base in Germany. Service members from the Kansas National Guard conducted training for the soldiers of Armenia's Peacekeeping Brigade, focusing on medical aid and a comparison of equipment. The opening of the exercise was attended by the First Deputy Minister of Defense, Chief of the General Staff of the Armed Forces, Lieutenant General Edward Azrian, and the U.S. Ambassador to Armenia, Kristina Kivayan. The Eagle Partner exercises are a vital component of Armenia-U.S. military cooperation. They began in 2023 and have already become an annual event aimed at increasing the readiness of Armenian peacekeeping units for international missions. Hundreds of service members participated in the previous 2 exercises, and American military equipment was used, including armored personnel carriers and infantry fighting vehicles. For the 2025 exercise, the American side had announced its intention back in March to transport 10 units of military equipment from Germany to Armenia. The exercise underscores Armenia's commitment to participating in international peacekeeping operations and its partnership with the U.S. to strengthen regional security and stability. The partnership between the Kansas National Guard, which participated in the exercise, and the Armenian Army has a much longer history. It began in 2003 within the framework of NATO's Partnership for Peace program when Armenia joined the U.S. State Partnership Program. The Kansas National Guard was selected as Armenia's partner to develop capabilities for peacekeeping missions, military training, and crisis response. The partnership is expressed through regular joint exercises, exchange of experience, and enhancing the preparedness of Armenian peacekeeping units. During Eagle Partner 2025, the soldiers of the Kansas National Guard played an important role by training Armenian peacekeepers in medical evacuation and the use of modern equipment. They also supported tactical and logistical planning using American armored vehicles. This cooperation not only contributes to the development of Armenia's military capabilities, but also deepens the military ties between the two countries. Noreen Gukasyan, ReOpen Media.
The United States may change its tactics if Russia does not agree to a ceasefire, and the 47th U.S. president will clarify his position on the peaceful settlement of Russian-Ukrainian relations within the next 2 weeks. American media outlets have noted that while just a few days ago Trump was insisting he would personally participate in a meeting between Putin and Zelensky, he is now saying that their face-to-face talks could be beneficial without his participation. Trump has emphasized that Ukraine cannot win the war on defense alone and must switch to an offensive strategy. The choice of a venue for a possible meeting between Zelensky and Putin is under discussion. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky is trying to hold direct negotiations with Russian President Vladimir Putin, but the Kremlin is rejecting it. Following pressure from Donald Trump, the possibility of a meeting is growing, but the venue remains uncertain. Due to the ICC arrest warrant against Putin, Switzerland and Austria have offered their territories for peace negotiations. Middle Eastern countries such as Saudi Arabia and Qatar are also being considered as mediators. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has announced that he has arrived in the Gaza Strip to approve plans for capturing Gaza City and fighting the Palestinian Hamas. The Prime Minister added that he has ordered negotiations to begin immediately to release all Israeli hostages and to end the war on terms acceptable to Israel. Meanwhile, Iran has begun the Stable Power 1404 military exercises in the Gulf of Oman and the Indian Ocean following its 12-day war with Israel, utilizing ships, missiles, and drones. Tehran has suspended cooperation with the IAEA, and the EU is threatening to reimpose UN sanctions if the disagreements are not resolved by August 31. If you don't like to read, you haven't found the right book. The world of books knows no borders or maps. With every volume come new lives and new feelings. From Tumanyan to Fitzgerald, from Bukowski to Irvin Shaw, from Hemingway to Saroyan. The Yerevan municipality announces that the 8th Yerevan International Book Festival will be held in the Republic Square from September 5th to 7th. You will be able to buy books at a 20% discount. From afternoon until 9 in the evening, a festival and celebration of books in the heart of Yerevan. And remember, there is no friend as loyal as a book. Not my words, just a bit of Hemingway. I'm Sona Tumanyan. Stay informed with ReNews. Good night.